one of the single most bizarre displays I have seen from the U.S. federal government in my lifetime. Folks, if you missed last night's State of the Union address and the follow-up rebuttal from the Democrats, you missed a golden opportunity in real time to see what a lack of psychological awareness does to people. Now, anyone who's watched my channel knows that I'm not some huge fan of the president, but boy, did he nail it when he looked over the Democrats and said, these people are crazy. I mean, things are not great in this country right now. Anybody who's going to the grocery store or just trying to make bills get paid to the end of the month knows that things are very, very difficult. And on top of that, we've got, what is it? How many more buyers sellers than there are 600,000 more housing sellers than there are buyers. That's how bad the housing market is. We have an entire generation of people that are kind of in the millennial era that are never going to, in their lifetimes, be able to afford a home based on wages versus what homes cost. We are days away from launching a major war that's going to crash the stock market and cause all sorts of worldwide upheaval. Things are not great. So this should have been a slam dunk for the Democrats, making themselves out to be any kind of an option. But what did they do? They found a way to make themselves look even more incompetent than Kamala Harris did. Basically, the people that were in the room made themselves seem to be hateful and spiteful and unlikable, unrelatable, and truly unelectable. But then, even after the whole 2-hour shebang was over, and there was some commentary, and the Democrats came on for rebuttal, they put on a woman who basically announced to the world, guess what? I'm from the CIA, and now I'm in charge of an entire state, and you should trust me to be in charge of the entire country. Folks, if you want to make sure that no American trusts you ever in any position of power, other than perhaps in Virginia, announce that you're from the CIA and you're here to help. Remember when Reagan said that? The 9 most terrifying words in the English language? I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Just delete government and add CIA to make it worse. It was unreal. The people overseas have to be looking at our country like, how do you, how do you win a war against people who are not rational? People who are not sane? People who, we call them, these crazy terrorists, they go this, that, and the other. At least you can understand with the Iranians, even if you don't agree with the ideology, or their religious perspective, they say, this is our religious perspective, here's what we believe. And then you look at their actions and you're like, okay, well, yeah, if that's what you would believe, then that's how you would act. Not that that's a good thing, but at least it's understandable. But my God, in America right now, they have to be wondering how, well, I can't say that here. I truly can't say that here, but real quick, before I get too far into this, God bless all of you who have continued to join us and stay subscribed over at Patreon. I very, very much appreciate it. I understand very clearly how tough things are. I have people message me all the time, say, Florida Monkey, I would love to sign up at Patreon and give you the support, but right now, my budget is at the point where $5 a month matters. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if you could go back in time to the 1980s and say that in the year 2025, 2026, that most Americans were at that point in their life. Even adult Americans, that $5 is the difference. People back in the 80s be like, what? Wait, we're not even like that now, and $5 is worth way more, relatively speaking, in the 80s than it is now. I knew parents at that time that were giving their kids $5 a week allowances. And for a kid in the 1970s and 80s, that was probably fine. Now, $5 is almost nothing, really. It's a couple bottles of soda out of the machine. That's it. But once again, fully refundable first 90 days. No questions asked. God bless all of you who have signed up and participated. Brand new video over there, by the way. Brand spanking new video. Just dropped yesterday, talking about this upcoming war and why, in a certain sense, we are overmatched. There's something going on in America versus something that's been going on in the Muslim world for a long time that is not a predictor of our long-term winning anything. And you can actually see it from, this is a picture of the Gerald Ford. I had this zoomed in, and it's not zoomed in now, but basically we have a $13 billion aircraft carrier over there that can't even flush toilets reliably. Now, I know a lot of you think this might be kind of a funny thing, but when you're trapped aboard a ship, a vessel, and there's really no other option for getting rid of human waste, and the human waste facilities are overflowing and pushing human waste back up through the commodes and onto the floors, and then you've got to mop that up with mops that you use to mop other places, it could cause a physical catastrophe. It could cause ship-wide airborne sicknesses and everywhere because they're just slinging it around with mops. It could put the ship out of commission without even being a shot being fired. And if it's that way aboard one ship, you have to know that maybe perhaps we might have a much bigger problem. There's rumors going around that this particular vacuum system used on the Ford is being sabotaged by sailors from within because they were supposed to have ended. Let me say this again. The Gerald Ford, let me zoom this in. Whoop, hold on, bump the camera. Let's see if we can do this professionally. The Ford was supposed to have ended its last deployment in December. See, as of December, they had been deployed for 6 months. And after that 6-month deployment, they had been told they were coming home. Well, guess what? Not only do they not come home, now they're headed to the other side of the world, and they've got another 90 days as it is right now, December, January, February, well, maybe 60 to 70 days, but they might have another couple hundred days. And there are people, sailors right now saying, look, this is it for me. I'm done. I signed up. I drank the Kool-Aid. We were told one thing and something else occurred. Now, I want you to think about that for just a minute. We were told one thing and something else occurred. You see, that's the key. There's some rich people in America right now who are very, very happy about Mr. Trump and what's happened. And then there's some people out there who are psychologically compromised who invent what might have happened or what might have occurred in this country had he not been elected. And that's actually the worst, the ones who can invent anything. But then there are those people out there who are absolutely blind to their own incompetence. They're basically saying, I don't like Mr. Trump because he did this and this and this and this and this and this. And because I don't like it, that makes me qualified to change it for the better. Let me say this again. Just not liking Mr. Trump doesn't give you a qualification to do one goddamn thing. Just like liking the man or being loyal to the man or, being a hardcore Trumper from the beginning. Wonderful. That doesn't make you qualified to do any particular job. You see, that's the emotion creeping in. Some say, Florida Monkey, why do you always find a way to talk about your Patreon channel? Well, the basis of all psychological operations is this. The first thing you have to do is get your target in an emotional state and have them just assessing their emotions over and over again. Am I happy? Am I sad? Am I anxious? Am I anything else? Once you have them doing that, then you can manipulate their belief systems. If they're looking at the world through the cold, calculated lens of thought, if they already have a sense of self, you'll never break it. If they have a sense of who they are and what they believe, you'll never break it. Case in point. Here's a perfect example of Americans believing one thing that just isn't true. This Ellen Mensch show. this fall of this leader, this cartel leader, down in Mexico, down Guadalajara way and Puerto Vallarta, and then he was captured or killed. I'm not sure which one. I don't think anybody is truly sure which one. If he was killed, then all of his guys go out and they start burning down the city and lighting buses and trucks on fire and gas trucks and all this. The only thing that matters to the cartels is money. They are not ideologically driven. They don't want to see the fall of America. Why? Because they want Americans to have a lot of money. Why do they want Americans to have a lot of money? So that they have a lot of money to buy their drugs. They are driven by money only. Nothing else matters. They will sell drugs to whoever will buy. Not what the Muslims are about. The Muslims are ideologically driven. If they were driven by money, they would have jumped into bed with the United States a long time ago. It would have behooved them much more than to follow along with some ancient religion from 900 AD and some guy named Allah and all this. Not a great financial move. Not a great financial move. It's religion. And once again, the Democrats have absolutely no concept of either what's good for them financially or any concept of religion whatsoever. For them, it's just the ideology of, I'm going to try to be the opposite of whatever Donald Trump is. And when you do that, folks, and you're that psychologically twisted, you'll begin to understand something. And this should be the final nail in the coffin for the proof. When we went down there with the U.S. military to Venezuela and picked up Nicolas Maduro and his wife, two elderly people, used the military to do it, even though they said it wasn't a war. Were there riots in Venezuela? Were there members of the Cartel de los Soles burning down this and lighting gas trucks on fire and doing all the crap that happened? No. What does that prove? Not the leader of a cartel. Where were all of his cartel cronies, attempting to go after U.S. assets or burning anything? It didn't happen. It didn't happen, did it? You see, this is about, the difference was political ideology. Down there, they wanted to be basically Venezuelan national socialists. They banned pornography. Okay, in America, why hasn't pornography been banned, even though we know it leads to all sorts of horrible things? Because of the money involved. They banned usury down there. Same thing. America worships money, therefore it's legal. Abortion, gay marriage, trans LGBTQ agenda, all this stuff has a dollar sign behind it. And it's going to be whoever wins, whoever makes it out to be the most lucrative. And I have another question for you too. Something else got revealed that nobody saw. I'm going to ask yourself a question, right? Ask everyone out there a question. Or you should ask yourself this question, however you want to look at it. Why is Ghislaine Maxwell chilling on a prison sentence that will let her get out of prison pretty soon in a low security facility, having been found, at least in the court of public opinion, to be as guilty as Jeffrey Epstein was, even though she was the one primarily responsible for recruiting the girls? You see, Ghislaine Maxwell, brought the girls to Jeffrey Epstein. She was the first contact, not him. He didn't go out in his day and hop on his little scooter and go gallivanting from junior high school to high school to junior high school to high school around southern Florida and trying to find girls and say, hey, you want to come to my island? He didn't do that. She was the one. He's dead. Why is nobody calling for her head? People said, oh, we want more files. We want more files. Because you know what they're looking for? They're looking for more men. in the Epstein files, because it's okay to hate a man for his involvement in whatever may have gone down. But it's, well, I mean, you got to be angry with the woman, but she was really also a victim of him too. See, she wasn't responsible for her actions, is basically the idea. Any crime that's committed in America, any crime, any badness, always has to fall at the feet of a man. Because if it falls at the feet of a woman, there'll be a huge army of people ready to come out and dust it away and push it over to a pile in front of some man who's adjacent. Case in point. You ready for this? You're going to want to sit down for this. This is an article from 8 years ago out of Mexico. Now, it says not real news. Did Mexico lower its age of consent to 12? No. You see, conservative commentator Ann Coulter tweeted on the 30th of June of 2018 that the age of consent in Mexico was now 12 for the entire country. Now, here's the part that should blow your mind. Mexico raised its age for sexual consent from 12 to 15 in 2012. Yes, you see, that's right. Wait a minute, hold on. What does that mean? Why does it matter? All of the accusation against Epstein, if he had just done what he did or what he wanted to do, if there was all this, him wanting to have rolls in the hay with 12-year-old girls, he could have done that in Mexico legally. You see, everything that happened with Epstein happened in 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. Well, at that time in Mexico, the age of consent was 12. Why would he have needed some separate island in the U.S. Virgin Islands where that was under U.S. law and the age at that time was 16? You don't think this guy could have easily picked up some giant property down in Mexico and done whatever the hell he wanted to do? Down in Mexico, in Mexico, prostitution is legal. And not only is it legal in Mexico, it's cheap. And I mean super cheap. There are all sorts of 13 and 14 and 15-year-old girls running around selling themselves in Jalisco and Michoacan and Guanajuato and Guerrero, all these areas. And it's perfectly legal to go throw them $15, $20, $25 for a roll in the hay. Can anybody answer that question? For those of you that want to know where all this happened, by the way, with the drug cartel king and the violence and all this, here's Puerto Vallarta, right here, western coast of Mexico. And then inland, you come in a ways, and where is Guadalajara? Oh, here it is, way over here. Guadalajara. Big city. Folks, the only reason Americans would vacation here, I mean, there's nothing that you could get at Puerto Vallarta that you couldn't get anywhere in Florida or the Bahamas. You know why Americans vacation in Mexico? Do you know why Americans, primarily American males, vacation in Mexico? Because drugs are easy to get. They're cheap. Girls are easy to get. You don't got to ask age. And prostitution itself is legal. Funny thing though, Mexico and both the U.S. are below what they call the replacement rate, meaning that we're having more Americans die and more Mexicans die every year than are being born. Mexico in 2012 dropped catastrophically in their birth rate when they raised the age of consent. That's right. It's a hard pill for some Americans to swallow. But the places in the world where you have the highest ages of consent, let me see if I can find I don't have it. The places in the world where you find the highest ages of consent, I mean 17, 18, 19, are the places right now that aren't going to be around in 50 years. Not as they're known now, anyway. Mexico's birth rate has fallen below that of the United States. And that's all it took. In the 1800s, having a kid was an investment. Today, it's seen as an expense, and America will be over very, very soon. So, at 20 minutes, I'll leave that there. But folks, I tell you what, there are some things you can invest in, you can put money in, and you may make money if you didn't make money. I tell you what, right now, if you had bought Bitcoin when the president got reelected, you've lost half. You've lost half of what you put in. This is what it is. And there's still nowhere that you can take Bitcoin and buy a loaf of bread. Oh, you can go someplace and you can go to a kiosk and you can take your Bitcoin and then convert it over back, into US dollars, and then go take those US dollars and buy a loaf of bread. But you can't use Bitcoin as legal tender, and now it's worth half of what it was. Not even a year ago. If you take $5 a month and you invest it in your own psychological well-being and your ability to see through manipulation, and you don't buy one single, and you use that, and you don't buy something that you might have because it was an emotional purchase, I guarantee you'll save more than $5. So I'll just leave that there. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.